everyone. It's good to have you with us for this event.
Athletes, huddle up. It's time to begin. Get focused. Let's go. Hey, everyone. Welcome to Overtime with Coach Blue and Athletic Director Marissa. This is our weekly call-in show where we talk about anything therapeutic. Typically, it's questions you guys might have on the subjects of mental health, on relationships, on health and wellness. Communication. Today, we're going to take a deep dive into some betrayal trauma and some abuse factors right in our neighborhood, like literally a couple of houses away, other side of the street.
Yep.
Right?
Yes.
But before we get into that, let's jump into giving you guys a shout out and thanks to all of our Patreon subscribers. Thank you all so much for all that you're doing for Team Addict Athlete. We appreciate all of you guys who are investing in the Patreon program. It helps us push this podcast out a little bit further, and it really does help kind of get this message out to those who truly need it. You can sign up on patreon.com/addictathlete and pick a tier or platform that's going to suit your needs. I mean, shoot, for $2 a month, you get all the bonus content, which is pretty good stuff, I might say.
We have 50, more than 50 bonus videos, audio, that you can go back and watch. And if you pay up front for Patreon once a year, you get a 16% discount.
Absolutely. And soon we'll be putting out all of our playbook videos onto that platform as well. So now's the time if you want to, maybe kickstart your own recovery, maybe start understanding deeper concepts of what Team Addict Athlete does, and maybe getting into some therapeutic content. Patreon is your platform. Yes. But we want to give a special shout out and thanks to all of our subscribers.
Yes, we want to thank our super fans, Karen Hardy, Steve Riggs, Jerem Thurston, Tara Butson, Holly Davies, Scott Foster, Chris Williams, Sensei KP Brown, Patrick Forsyth, Brock Ellerman, and Christy Case.
Absolutely.
We want to thank our rookie levels. That is Sherry Polson, Earl Dyer, Wendell Wood, Brad Waldron, Ron and D. Loesch, Sione, and Mary Inuk. Thank you, rookies. Our pro level is Justin Robbins down in sunny St. George, and our champion level is Shadam Freya Robinson and Andrew Baird. Thank you to all of our Patreons. You guys help us keep moving this forward.
And we just saw that Andrew signed up his whole family to help do some service this weekend as we put on
our 5K,
our annual Addict Athlete Proxy Run, our 5K we do every year in company with the National Overdose Awareness Month. Recovery Month too.
Recovery
right?
Month. Yep.
We've attended National Overdose Awareness Night.
Yes.
Now September is the Recovery Month. And so, we're going to be doing a lot of stuff with Team Addict Athlete. This, not just the 5K that is literally still open right now. If you register in the next couple of days, you can either do it with us in Spanish Fork, Utah, or our virtual option where we'll send you the material that you'll need, and you can run proxy for a loved one who may be out there struggling with mental health or addiction, or maybe have lost their battle. So the proxy run's kind of a good healing experience, I would say, and we got some neat things in store this year. You can jump on addict2athlete.org for more information, and we'd love to see you guys out there running in solidarity with I guess the team and a bunch of folks who want to get their loved ones out there and to remember them for who they were.
Yes.
Also, Marissa, our first annual Addict Athlete softball tournament that day. It's going to be insane. Coach Jensen thought, we do an amazing 5K. Let's triple, quadruple that and do a softball tournament
at the same time.
And my gosh, this is going to be off the hook. This is going to be an amazing event. Like, it's sold out pretty quick, and I can't wait to show all the viewers what's going to happen on this. It's going to be amazing. So keep an eye out on social media. We'll be posting some live stuff that day, and it's going to be great for our first one.
Yes, we have our silent auction that's going as a fundraiser. If you want to get on, it closes tonight at 10 p.m. if you want to get on and get that. Anything there, we've got some great items there. And then we also, the same day as the softball tournament, we'll have a raffle there with some really fun and cool prizes.
Absolutely.
And I think Jed is making he's a pretty talented craftsman, and he's making some very cool one-of-a-kind, like, baseball stuff.
Absolutely.
You'll have to come see.
So check out the online silent auction is up right now on Facebook. So go check it out.
Posted the link in the comments.
Awesome. Listeners, we're going to take a deep dive into some controversy that's happening right now in the world of YouTube. And subsequently, this family that has been in the media lately has kind of, I would say about a block away from where we live, other side of the neighborhood, so it's in a different kind of part. But nonetheless, our kids are friends with their kids and have seen what we're going to talk about firsthand, but also like the deprimentive state that this person has, I guess, put her well, both, I would say husband and wife had put their children through. And, when our daughter would come back and tell us a little bit about what was going on over there, we didn't really realize the magnitude of abuse that was been suffering over there. In this day and age, whenever you call out someone else's parenting style, you can brace yourself for impact, right? And rightly so. I mean, there's a lot of different ways, but my goodness.
So this is discussing the 8 Passengers YouTube channel. The mother is Ruby Franke and Kevin Franke, and then Mother Ruby Franke started a separate group called, I think, Connections with a certified mental health therapist
which
named
we're going to dive into too, because
Jody Hildebrandt. Anyway, Jody and Ruby were recently arrested and are being held for 6 counts of felony child abuse. Felony
child abuse. This isn't just kind of like, scold your kids. This is child abuse, which first and foremost, whenever we start getting people onto a social media platform that start kicking this knowledge, I realized that this family had accumulated over 2 million followers, which is insane, because if any normal person, and 2 million of you, we got to have a chat.
Yeah.
If you watch any of these videos, you will realize very quick that it is abuse. I mean, there is a lot of abuse. And the betrayal trauma that's going to become a factor for these kids is going to be long lasting. And we'll talk about that too for a moment. But in essence...
And I'm guessing it started out a little bit more lighthearted.
I'm sure it did.
Because I remember when we moved to where we are now, 4.5 years ago, I remember our daughter seeing their van and was like, oh my gosh, 8 Passengers, I've seen them on YouTube. Like, she had watched it, and it was more just like day-to-day living with a family, 6 kids and mom and dad. And then it just got deeper and deeper, and more stuff got, So
and even when our daughter would come and talk to us about some of the odd feelings, because she's been at their home that she experienced, it was kind of like, well, I guess that's kind of how they do things over there. And I'm not a big social media fan, so I didn't really get on their page to see anything. But I remember one time our daughter come back and said something about a therapeutic intervention that the mother did. Was that her name, Ruby?
Ruby.
That Ruby did. And our daughter Savannah, who has been raised by a therapist and a rec therapist, was like, I don't know if that's right. And so we did a little bit of research and found out that no, this woman, Ruby, had absolutely zero training, absolutely zero licensing.
Yeah.
And whatever freaking counselor or therapist joined up with her, she deserved to have her license pulled immediately. Whole nother story. But what we've noticed is that through this process, again, 2 million followers, it just fueled this behavior that this woman put her children through, and it is disgusting.
Yeah.
Why YouTube only now pulled their stuff, I'll never know.
Well, I believe they were, at least I think Ruby too was getting a lot of backlash and was pulling certain videos.
Yeah.
And then I heard that she had canceled some of their 8 Passengers a while ago, like in the last year, because there's been a lot of other issues. But now finally, officially, YouTube has pulled.
You put a song on YouTube and you immediately get copyright stricken, but you abuse your children, and for some reason you get to be up there forever making lots of money. So go figure, this society. It all came to a head about a week ago when in southern Utah, 2 of the kids that were being held literally captive, duct taped
by the business partner, the therapist at her St. George home.
Yeah. Was able to escape and go to a neighbor's house, which, if you're familiar with the area in St. George, the location they're at, it's not just a house right next door. It's a little bit of ways. This kid found his way out of the basement over to the neighbor's house, kind of like asking for food, because they were malnutrition and there was duct tape on their arms. Thank heavens, this neighbor, who I would believe is a hero and a saint, called the police, and that was finally the beginning of the end for these 2 yahoos. and why the husband hasn't been charged yet or whatnot. That needs to be discussed.
And I do
as well.
know that the husband has separated from her. I believe they are been going through a divorce, so I know there's been some issues there. And he was not there at this incident. He was not in St. George, and so that was part of why I believe he has not been arrested yet. And he's probably trying to withdraw because maybe he's seeing some of the extremeness of it. But you can see him in some of the YouTube videos joining in with some of, it's just more, it's very rigid. It's very black and white. It's very, and I don't know, obviously that used to be more of a trend, I think, in parenting years ago, but it's just, it's the same thing we've discussed multiple times with people just struggling with addiction.
What would you say is a trend in parenting?
Well, just the tough love stuff we've talked about in recovery and stuff, that's just, it doesn't work anymore.
No.
And even just years and years ago of older generations of, you do this because I said so. What's the Matilda saying?
Yeah.
I'm big, you're little.
Small. Yeah. I'm right, you're wrong.
Yeah. That's how parenting was. And you listen to me and that's how it is. And if you go against that, then we have problems. And
right.
You just listen. And that is no longer the style. And why do you, as a therapist, why do you say that parenting style has changed or needs to be changed?
I'd say because the everything about that style has been proven not to work, right? I mean, we talk a lot now about relationships before rules, but there's still rules, which means you've got to have a relationship with someone before you can have any kind of leverage on emotional authority or, even like perceived authority. Meaning if they don't respect you, they're certainly not going to obey you, right? It's just not going to work that way.
Well, it's the concept,
happens with law enforcement right now.
Yes. We worked years ago. I mean, we met 23 years ago working in youth treatment and rehab, and it was very, very highly based on the behavior modification model. And
a behavior modification model is what? Because that's what 8 Passengers was trying to instill with a new tagline on it, which is the stupidest thing ever. But describe what a behavioral...
So behavior modification is just training through consequences, pretty much. You know? I mean, it really is what law enforcement is. When you go and you're speeding down the road and you get a ticket, that's the consequence for the behavior of speeding. So getting a ticket, does that teach you not to speed? No, it doesn't. It teaches you not to speed when you see a cop,
or to get a radar detector in your car,
so that you can
a jammer. Yeah.
And that's the thing is behavior modification creates behavior change. Absolutely. And it gets behavior change quickly. And that's why lots of people enjoy it. They think it works because you get a change of behavior immediately.
So this is why
but long-term change, it does not.
Because this is why when we worked in youth treatment, we would have kids come into youth treatment, and when they have 24/7 supervision and therapy and, parents, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
Mentored all these
immediate
people, immediate consequences, we could push them into behavior changes pretty quick.
Yeah. And those kids started acting better.
And then guess what? The parents come to visit, like, I've never seen such I'm so amazed. This program's amazing. And then they go home where they don't have 24/7. And guess what happens?
There's all the same behaviors come back. And they become sneaky, probably even more sneaky because they've learned more tricks to be able to get away with stuff.
Absolutely. So behavior modification doesn't work. We used to think it did, but if you've ever watched the movie Bug's Life with the grasshoppers versus the ants, you'll know that doesn't work, right? There comes a point in time, and I remember this very distinctively with our kids when I wanted them to do something and they were giving some pushback, and I said 1, 2, 3, 4. I kept going because I'm like, at 3 they're supposed to move, but they didn't. And I'm like, they've reached that point where they realize that, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
Freak out, go grab them in the headlock, like Ruby did, starve them to death. Like, that doesn't make any sense, So what Marissa and I did is take a playbook out of Dr. Paul Jenkins' book, which is, relationships out of inconvenience, parenting out of inconvenience, which means we may have to put a lot of other things aside to find out why there's pushback, to figure out what's going on. We may have to implement the 80-20 rule, where we do 80% of the job and they do 20%.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Well, and you talk about relationships before rules. Another one I heard recently is connection before consequence.
Yeah.
And
It's the same thing.
you need to be able to build that connection. You need to be able to build some kind of something deeper to be able to bring about. Because the thing is in parenting or in relationships, you want to bring about long-term change and long-term benefit rather than just immediate change because I said so. And that just psychologically, it just doesn't work long-term.
No.
But people they think that that's how it works. And that's what you could see in some of the earlier videos of Ruby Franke, like that's what she was trying to do, but it got really extreme. And obviously, when you also hold somebody down even tighter, they usually react and even bigger.
You could see this on their videos. There was, even one that our daughter saw that when the mother was coming home and you can see this on videos, because believe it or not, once you post it to the internet, it's always there. Yeah. So sorry, Ruby, your crimes are still always going to be out there for everyone to see.
Yeah.
But you could watch the anxiety raise in the children's faces when it was pointed out that mom will be home and you don't have this done. That was based off of fear and consequence. That wasn't love and respect, and so she could come in and rule. But here's the thing that makes me, I wish I knew more. So we can't get too deep into this. But the one I wish I knew more is I would love to know what her parenting style was like when she was a child.
Parents. Yeah.
Because I can tell you by the arrogance and this nonchalant attitude, I can tell you that it wasn't what she's doing to her kids. Just because of the confidence that she has that it works. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest here.
That makes sense.
Right?
Yep.
I watched one that just turned my stomach where she made the kid sleep in the bathroom next to the toilet because he got out of bed or something. And, there's been, I look at that kind of stuff and I'm like, what the piss are you guys thinking?
Yeah. Well, I remember.
What does that tell your child?
I remember Savannah saying, "Hey, Chad was sent away to Anasazi," and I was like,
"It's an intense program."
Yeah, we know the program. I've had, in fact, when I was a child, I had a friend that was sent to that program, and I was like, "Well, what's he been doing?" And she's like, "I don't know. I think he was like talking back." I'm like, "What? Like, was he doing drugs? Was he doing this? Was he doing that? Was he?" No. It was all just fighting what the structure mom and dad had created.
What do you think the adult version, if this was to go on, what do you think the adult version of that parenting style would result in as adult children? Because these would be very passive, very easily manipulated adults.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Well, and they're, severely traumatized. So you're talking about PTSD. So then...
No, I'm talking about if it worked. Let's say that it worked. Let's say that suppression and that behavior modification, it worked, right?
But they're always going to look to others to tell them what to do.
Absolutely.
There won't be a lot of their own belief. There won't be a lot of understanding or things that they stand for. It will all be a copycat of what mom and dad told them.
Yeah.
Because that's what they were taught was correct. And they won't have their own opinions or ideas, let alone, very timid in situations unless they're told what to do, because mom and dad didn't trust their kids enough to make decisions on their own. They told them what decisions they were going to make.
So that type of parenting style is great for order. But the problem is once you become an adult, what happens when you're in a situation where you have to stand up for something?
On your own.
Yeah. They won't be able to, because they'll be so afraid that something higher or bigger than them is going to, hurt them, so to speak. Right? So they're not going to be the kind that are going to be super engaged in pursuing careers that are going to lead to success, because they're never going to have the emotional intelligence to fight for a raise or to fight for something that's right, stand up for something, right? Yeah. Heaven forbid something happened and they needed to act. They wouldn't be able to, because, let's say a cop or something pulls them over for something, that's kind of, out of pocket or whatnot. They're not going to say, hey, wait a minute, that's wrong. You can't do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because they're afraid that authority
They
means
will not
submission.
they will not question authority, even though there may be situations where they should, and it would be important to. And
in a relationship where you have, let's say, a female who is in that mindset and a male, that's going to be a very abusive relationship.
Yeah, because they'll also probably look for a partner or spouse that is more domineering, that is more controlling, similar to the parent, because that's where they've learned to feel okay.
Absolutely. And the cool thing about it is the human spirit's actually very, very challenging to break. Mm-hmm. The oldest daughter, from what I've seen on her social media, just a few things I had, is finally like being the one that's saying it's about time. And she's broken some relationship stuff with them. So my hat's off to her because she broke the cycle.
Well, and many people have already questioned, why didn't she go sooner? Why didn't she tell anyone? Well, first off, she has been. The oldest daughter had been telling people for a long time. But also, you have to recognize when you're raised in a very controlling, unsafe environment like that, it's oftentimes years, if not decades, before an individual goes, wow, the way I was raised was wrong. Wow, this was really questionable. Once they finally start connecting with other families or other friends and going, oh, this isn't how your parents acted in this situation. This isn't how you, and all of a sudden it's this huge awakening. And I mean, you even went through that. And I think most people do by the time they're an adult, to go, you meet a spouse, you meet friends, and you're like, oh, your parents didn't do that? Oh, is that weird?
The interesting aspects of that is mine was more like physical and, emotional neglect and abuse, right? Mm-hmm. Where this is like got control. So,
psychological.
I carry physical scars on my body from abusive stepfathers and that kind of, I guess good old stuff. Mm-hmm. But, once you were hit and something physical happened, it was over. Mm-hmm. The emotional damage that they've created is a lot more challenging to overcome.
The Frankies, yeah.
Because they've wanted them to submit to the beliefs that because they are tickle fighting, that now they've lost privileges to eat. So doing normal things has a consequence.
Well, and one of the clips is one of the daughters is trying to sneak a stuffed animal into her backpack to go somewhere. And mom catches her and she's freaked out. Like she starts panicking. She starts crying. And mom's like, oh no, I wouldn't have been mad about that. I'm so sorry, honey. But now this girl is so lost. She doesn't know when is it okay and when is it not. And mom usually gets mad, but why is she not mad now? And that's very, it's so disheartening. It's very confusing for a child to go, well, what did I do wrong here? And you're okay with it, or not wrong is taking it. But other times I get in trouble for this and you would freak out.
Yeah.
And that's very, very difficult.
Well, exploiting this kind of parenting style with some pretty intimate experiences with children, just even mother-father bonding relationships with their kids, it's sickening, and it's challenging. And the poor part about it is there's going to feel like a lot of rejection when it comes to loving relationships, like how can they learn how to love and be loved when they're always on the hot seat, so to speak,
Yeah.
And so you'll see typical things like isolating and, some acting out and some pushing away. And so those things aren't going to just go away. Abusive parents that kind of are born this way are kind of hard because, again, I would very much doubt that the mother, experienced any of that in her own way.
No.
Could be, but not to that degree.
Yeah.
So the sad thing about all of this, I think, is what the residual effect is, because none of us escape youth without some kind of, knocks and bruises, right? I mean, you just discussed mine, and although I would look at your family system as being, very, supportive and whatnot, there were still rough times.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's family system. We're going to go through some rough spots. The thing that stinks, though, is that there becomes a variation where between about the ages of about 12, 13 to 19, that's that window where addiction starts to kind of catch up, So when we restrict things from kids, like the normal things of life, like right now, we have to understand that we live in a world that is now based off of, technology. I get a lot of parents coming in that are upset that their kids are spending too much time on their phones, too much time on social media, too much time, like in their rooms, on gaming systems.
Yeah.
And the sad thing about it is that's the new normal, parents.
Yeah.
And so it's like AI right now. Everyone's freaking out about AI. But you've got to learn how to use it. You've got to learn how to, harness it to become something that's going to be usable. It's the same thing.
Everything has dangers. I mean,
they said that about the TV when it came out.
Yes, they said it about newspapers. They said it about radio. And where are we at with all of that now? And still people are like, oh my gosh, get your kids off phones and get them off this. Well, guess what? When I was a teenager, it was like magazines. It was everything, and it's all evil and horrible, and it's going to ruin you and melt your brain. But you have to learn how to live with it. You have to learn how to manage it. You have to learn how to utilize, social media in a safe manner. But you can't do that by having it not given at all, like restricted fully and completely.
I remember when I was I'm thinking this is probably 13, 14 years ago. I was at a conference with Dr. Paul. And it was when Facebook was still kind of new, and people were up in arms about, Mark Zuckerberg creating this platform and how he's making friends connect, and can that really be a real relationship? And people were so up in arms about it. Yeah. One guy raised his hand and said, I think he belongs in prison. What? Are you guys out of your freaking minds? Like, how weird is that? And the funny thing about that is we've got to start adapting to the what is and stop pushing away from it, because this is the new normal. Changing.
It's always moving, and we have to learn how to move with it appropriately.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, when we talk about, video game addictions and all this kind of stuff, and I'm thinking, although there's no clarification of it, you have to immerse yourself in it too. I mean, I've said this a million times, and I've said it on this podcast. I had to learn everything there was to know about Fortnite. Why? Because our kids racked up an $800 bill on Fortnite once.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget the gut punch that was when I'm like, I can't be mad at them because I'm the one that put in the credit card because it said it needed it, right?
Yeah.
And because I didn't do my research on it and say, all right, guys, this is what it means because, no, I'm an adult. I don't care about Fortnite, whatever. They did that. So whose fault was it?
Yeah.
It was 100% mine.
Yeah.
Even though they purchased it, right? And so
and we've joked. In fact, I joked with the boys the other day because we joked over the years that we spent $800 on literal dance lessons, Fortnite dance lessons. So since they did that, forever we've always said, if we ask you to dance, you dance.
There was two things we said. It was, I want you to learn all those dance moves. So when we snap our fingers and say dance, that they'll have some awesome move to do.
Yep.
And the second one, I said, you better become very good at that game. Yeah. You better be able to beat everyone because you have everything and more that you need right now. And they did. They got really good at it.
And they dance.
Yep, and they dance.
Now they're getting a little older and they don't like to do that.
But this is the thing, right?
They know all of them.
That means that we as parents have to own our own responsibilities. We have to be able to own our own in problems, right? Mm-hmm. When you have abusive parents, what happens is you typically will create low self-esteem in your children. Low self-esteem is the breeding ground for addiction. 100%.
For sure.
Wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah.
And then you get these emotional development blocks. And so you'll have kids that are slow to develop in areas of like service or gratitude or, emotional awareness, right? Yeah. Those kind of things.
And even just being able to building relationships because you have lower emotional understanding.
Yeah, there'll be some emotional unresponsive like behaviors that they'll start seeing. Mm-hmm. Their social skills take a huge punch, right? Because again, they don't know
relationship building.
Yeah, they don't know how to act around folks. Mm-hmm. Maybe they'll have problems with boundaries. They'll have relationship aggression.
Or they wait for others to make the call rather than them, which puts them, could put them in some really very dangerous situations because they allow others to tell them what to do or how to do things because they're too afraid to make those decisions themselves because they've never had to. Mom and dad always told them what to do. And so, that's dangerous. You
will absolutely have mental health issues later in life, if not now. Mentally abused individuals are 3 times more likely to develop a mental health condition such as depression or eating disorder than non-abused children are. right? Things like excessive compulsive disorders, those kind of things can definitely come from that. And they are more likely, I think 3 times more likely to self-harm and, pursue suicide. That's a scary thing.
It's really scary.
Academic performance gets kind of a sucker punch because, again, when Miss Ruby doesn't want her kids to sing a dance to Apple Bottom Jeans, which is kind of a mainstream song, she marches into the principal's office, throws a fit. So academic performance starts to take a hit.
Well, and then she was withholding food on a lot of these. She sent her preschooler to school without food because she didn't pack her own lunch. And this was all on her YouTube video because she didn't pack her lunch the night before, and she was making sure that teacher at the school did not give them food. Well, guess what? No one can have a good learning environment and feel like they can just grow mentally if their basic needs are not met of food, shelter, water. So they didn't have that. They withheld that a lot. She took away everything in the one son's bedroom for over 8 months because of, quote, his behavior. And what does bedroom and behavior, are those even related? Not really.
No.
And it sounds like the behavior was, very mild.
So, when you're looking at mentally and emotionally abusive adults, you're looking at criticism and belittling. You're looking at aggressive outbursts and yelling, some, isolation or restrictions, gaslighting and manipulation. I saw a lot of that just in a few of the ones that I saw. And the list goes on and on. So I haven't dived into their online parenting stuff, what's called Connections. But if the result of your program winds up and ends up being the 2 co-founders and founders are behind bars for child abuse, probably not the best model to use.
Yeah. I've watched a few of their videos when Savannah would come home. Well, when she first came home and said, his mom's a therapist. And I was like, what? I've never heard of her. And so look it up.
Our daughter,
no, she's not.
Our daughter has a birthmark on her neck.
Yeah.
And Miss Ruby pointed that out as she must be a loosey-goosey gal because she got a hickey or something.
Yeah, she told Chad that he could not hang out with her because she was a slut.
Yeah.
Because she had a hickey on her neck, which is a birthmark. And even just that kind of judgment that woman spews on anyone and everyone when she knows nothing about it.
2 million followers, though.
Yeah.
So you guys know, 2 million.
Is absolutely
what
ridiculous.
What the crap? 2 million of you people. I don't know. Nonetheless, the results of all this, what it means is that there's going to be an emotional blockage and some damage that these kids are going to heal from. But sadly, this is one that's in the public eye. There are many family systems like this. So, what can we do about it, right? Well, we can point out the inconsistencies, and we can invite the dialogue, and we can point in directions to help. By all means, what I would say is if you see that kind of stuff, social media or not, you've got to talk to somebody about it. You've got to report it.
And oftentimes people will get frustrated and mad that, say you report it to Child Protective Services and they do nothing. Well, something you also need to know is Child Protective Services needs a case. They need to have lots of information, lots of evidence. So if you see something, say something so that let them get their first investigation so they at least have something in the file. Yeah, maybe nothing happens that first time, but guess what? After 10, 15, hopefully less than that, they have enough information that they can help those children. If you think, oh, no, nothing, or I'm not going to tell anyone because they won't take those kids away from the home, so there's no point, guess what? That file that's going to take a few years to build won't get built.
It won't.
Because you've chosen to just stay back and not say anything.
Yeah.
So say something no matter what.
And I know that, for those that are local here in the state of Utah, it needs to go beyond your clergy.
Oh, 100%.
It needs to go beyond clergy.
Not who it goes to at all.
Yeah. I was, a bishop for quite a few years. And I'll tell you, I thank heavens I was also a therapist because I was able to help in a lot of other ways. But I can tell you that it's a hard subject to navigate. Mm-hmm. And so if you think that just by going to clergy is going to be enough, it will not be. No. It is your responsibility. And I know that's hard. I know it sucks. I know there's a potential to risk relationships and all that stuff. But I'll tell you, you can do it anonymously.
Yeah, you can do it anonymously.
But point plain and check. if there's nothing, they'll go and investigate. Now, DCFS, Department of Family Services, they went there. Mm-hmm. But you have to also remember that this is a very affluent neighborhood that they live in, and it's a very, standard issue family system.
Yeah.
And so on the outside, everything looked great.
And one situation, the child goes and meets with, they don't want their parent to get in trouble either.
No.
Maybe they meet with them privately. They may not say anything, or they may cover and protect their parent in those situations. Yeah. So that's why every call has to be made.
And I hate to say this, but there's a part in even Ruby and her husband mm-hmm. that may not have realized what they were doing was wrong.
Yeah.
But they may have thought and believed that was the way.
And I'm guessing it didn't start out as extreme as what we saw the other day. That's something that just built and built and built.
Yeah.
And that's scary.
So, when you're not willing to take feedback from others, go look yourself in the mirror, because you can get some good insight from an outside perspective.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Yeah.
So, those are some things that I think you should be aware of, especially with your own parenting styles. I mean, none of us are perfect. As much as, Marissa and I work with our family, we've still had some ups and downs and some roller coaster moments. And so
we still make mistakes all the time.
Yeah. And the cool thing about it is we'll own them. And I think that's a big part of all this, is being able to own your mistakes when they happen. Not mm-hmm. if, but when. So,
yeah.
Again, it's fuel, because that's what happens with addiction. So, be mindful about that. And to those kids, I wish them the best. Yeah. I hope that the mom and dad and the therapist can get the help they need. Mm-hmm. And I hope they don't continue to wrecking ball other family systems.
Absolutely.
So nonetheless, athletes, wanted to give you that little deep dive. If you yourself need any kind of counseling, look no further than Coach Blue here. You can jump on our website and find contact information. We do family counseling, family therapy. We even do recreational therapy if we need to, right?
Absolutely.
That's what we do here on Team Addict to Athlete. But again, we'd love to have you guys show up for our race this coming weekend. And again, if you can't make it, you have the whole month to complete the virtual run. Let us send you what you need. Get your family and your friends and support, and go in solidarity to proxy run for that individual that you love, that may have lost their battle or is currently struggling.
Yeah.
addicttoathlete.org. On behalf of Coach Blue and Athletic Director Marissa, go turn your mess into your message.